Hey, welcome everybody. Dave, let me point this out. Dave has said, "Start it up. I'll be 5 late." Right? Let me put the comments in the. Let me put the comment into out onto Facebook land. All right. So there we go. Oh, come on. There is he. Dave says that. So, good morning, Mike. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, everybody. So, when Dave gets here in his slow, solemnly way, we'll deal with it at that point. Okay. What are you saying? Sleeping in again? Yes, he is. Yeah, absolutely, Rick. Go pound on his door, okay? You know, start it up at 6:30. Kick it in. Here he is. Here he is. Mr. Lateness himself, Dave Wheeler.
Yeah, well, I was almost not late.
You were almost
what?
You were almost what?
Oh, almost not late.
Almost not late.
Yeah. Then I looked at the time and it says, "I'll ruin my reputation if I come on now."
Right. Good morning, Betty. And on the phone with Trump. All right. Yeah. Send the goon squad round. You know, we'll let one ICE agent in and send him up Thorstone Road, eh?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look for a mindless goon with no mind of his own, and yeah, that'll be the guy.
Yeah.
So okay, we got all right.
Well, I got a bit of. Oh, I see. That's why, because my volume.
Well, I'll tell you. I could tell you something that we might. I actually bought gas last night for $1.54.
Wow.
A liter last night, and on Dunn Street. And if you notice, the gas prices have come down from the 185, nearly 190 there was for a while. Yeah. And this apparently, the gas prices are coming down not on what the Americans have said about what the peace deal is all about, but what the Iranians have said. Mm-hmm. So I guess Wall Street is shifting its focus onto Iran. And because there seems to be this idea of a 60-day ceasefire happening, that's given them confidence to bring down the gas prices and think the Straits of Hormuz will be opening up for this memorandum of understanding that will be talked about for 60 days. They feel that this is the way in which the U.S. administration can put distance between them and a war without losing face and make it look like negotiations are going on where everything just sort of shifts back to normal as far as the Straits of Hormuz is going. I don't know if Bibi Netanyahu is going to let him do that. Bibi Netanyahu is not going to let him stop him bombing the crap out of southern Lebanon and mowing down people's homes. Because what Bibi wants, Bibi gets. But
we'll get to Lebanon later in the show. Yeah.
But in the meantime, aside from that, because Iran is speaking positively, sort of semi-positively about what may come up, that's what is driving the prices down. Not what that other fella says.
Yeah. Well, also, I think also, I think there's been some changes in Canada. Canada's movement to try and get more oil out is probably helping as well, although that's not going to happen for a while.
No, that won't have any effect on it all because we only have X amount of oil we can get out of the ground at this particular time.
Yeah.
In the future, if we develop, it might.
Well, we can get it out the ground. We can't ship it to the coast.
No, we can't. We haven't got our biggest deal is with the U.S. that absorbs 3.9 million a day from us, and the actual and then whatever else we got, we can get to the coast, but that's going to make absolutely no difference at all on what's happening in Iran right now. Nothing at all. I mean, it's hopeful for the future. It gives us, in the future, it looks like we'll be able to supply safe energy to a lot of different countries in the Pacific area, and that would be a good thing for them. That would be kind of a bit of a buffer from any more Straits of Hormuz problems we may have going forward, and that looks like that's not going to change for a while.
Yeah.
But right now, what it is, the U.S. is getting very bored of this war, and they're being pushed to go further and further by the neocons, like that little gremlin Lindsey Graham, who never saw a war he didn't like, and the Israeli lobby, of course, is powerful, and they're pushing Trump to keep going on the war. But Trump may not do it this time. He may find a mind of his own. I'm not so sure. But we'll find out. We'll find out if the oil prices are going down. Something.
The other thing of
what? Go ahead.
The other thing, of course, that I think the world is demanding a bit of a ceasefire right now, at least for the next 7 or 8 weeks, with the World Cup going on. World Cup and the war are inconsistent, if you know what I mean.
I think it's much stronger than that. I think these countries are telling the world, we're dying. You said that Kenya's got no oil or gas. I'm sure it's the same as Tanzania. And Mozambique would probably be the same. The South Africa might be strained as well. I don't know how much natural resources they have. Nigeria will be pumping out as much oil as they can, but they can't supply.
Yeah, but they don't have a pipeline across Africa.
No, but they can fill up. They can fill up a ship and go around Africa, go to the Far East, but that's a long way, and it might relieve some of the problems, but the very fact of the matter is this was an ill-conceived war.
Yeah.
It's an ill-conceived war, and it's damaging world economies, and it's hurting the poor people of Africa and Asia. And I don't know why they don't get that. Why don't they get that? Hurry up and finish the war so that you can put relief on the poor people of the world. We're okay here. I mean, our standard of living goes down a little bit because of the high price of oil and gas and how much it adds to other commodities, particularly food. But we'll survive. Those other countries are hurting bad. They need the aluminum that comes out. That's another thing Canada is getting a lot more market for. 9% of world aluminum is being arrested in the Gulf. That means there's more demand for Canadian aluminum. Which is kind of good for us too. It could help us diversify our market. Yeah. And but the very fact of the matter is, what we don't hear in the news, we just hear about high gas prices for us, which is a pain in the neck. But other people are going to be starving.
I don't know what time you bought it at, but I seem to recall it being 169 when I went past Lake Street, Esso yesterday, which is kind of
154 on Dunn Street.
What time?
That was about 8 o'clock, I think. 8 o'clock.
Okay.
7:30, 8 o'clock.
Weird. Okay. All right. Because mine was about 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Well, it was 7:30, 8 o'clock at 8. So what I did is I pulled into a I was in Chippewa. I pulled in the Gals gas station there. I couldn't get their pumps to work. So I just got frustrated and left. I had a quarter of a tank, so I didn't really need anymore, and they were 161. And then I went up Dunn Street and went down. Just happened to be traveling from Stanley to Drummond on Dunn, and there's a corner store gas station right there on the north side of the street, and it was 154. And they must have just changed it to 154, for there's only a couple of cars in there. So I pulled in and I had to do a kind of a U-E and back into one of the spots. And then after I did that, all of a sudden massive amounts of cars started showing up.
Mm-hmm. You mean the one at Dun and you're meaning the one at Dun and Drummond, yeah?
It's close to Dun and Drummond. It's not
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Drummond.
It's not Dun.
It's
close
it's a couple
to
blocks away
yeah.
from Drummond.
Yeah, it's about a block and a half away. Yeah. All right. Some good news we've got is that Niagara Parks they've signed a deal, because last minute deal averts a scheduled strike today. And
No. It has to be ratified.
yeah, well, of course, all of these deals have to be ratified.
Well, guess what? This
What?
one might not get ratified. Bingo. This one may not get ratified. And the reason why it may not get ratified is I was talking, I got a bit of information last night, and nobody's happy with the deal.
Okay.
The union. I've seen this happen before myself. When I worked at a factory one time, the executive for the union comes in and they highly recommended this deal that they had negotiated with management. And well, remember, everybody, all the party members voted against it. We didn't like it, and the executive said this is the best we can do, and they turned it down flat, like it was majority. We don't want it. Go back to the negotiating table, and they did, and they got a better deal. And in this particular case, the union has said the same thing. This is a good deal. We got a good deal for everybody, and the union members don't like it. At least a significant amount of them don't. And it was so bad that the Niagara Parks Facebook page they have, where people were leaving comments about how bad the deal was, the executive shut down the Facebook page and erased all the comments.
Well, of course, what I'm talking about, I didn't have access to that Facebook page, but what I'm talking about, what I was talking was just what was on the news or what was on the, in the local press.
Yeah, so it did say in the local press, though, it had to be ratified. So I figured, oh, well, because tourist season,
I'm assuming ratification is easy, but yeah.
Well, it's not always, as I just pointed out. I was at a vote one time where the ratification, was highly recommended, and they turned it down. This one, too. It was so bad. The resistance to this deal was so bad in the union. The union shut down its own Facebook page and erased all the comments.
Yeah.
Something they should not have the right to do.
No.
They were worried that it would foment resistance to this. Now, I would say that Niagara Parks workers are in a very powerful position. They don't want to give up their leverage for a small time deal. From what I heard, the deal is not very good. It doesn't come anywhere close to what they wanted. And I don't know what the union representatives are doing if they're not supporting their people as well as they should be doing.
Well, typically that is when you kind of more or less say it's time for the union executives to be voted out, right?
Yeah, that might happen next time round. Yeah. But you have to wait for the executive.
Of course, you have to wait for the next election, but yeah, typically that's the reaction that you do see when there's not a deal gone through. When the deal doesn't go through, the members blame it on the executive.
Well, that's partly it, and that's why they have these votes to ratify the deal.
Yeah.
Now, what was happening, from what I hear, the Facebook page was on fire with negative comments about how inadequate this deal was.
Yeah.
And they kept coming and coming and coming, and then suddenly everything was wiped off. All the comments were. The president said, "I have been instructed to shut down the Facebook page." What does that tell you? That doesn't sound too good. It doesn't really sound too union to me either. You know what I mean? You're going to shut down the communications between everybody. Aren't they listening? All those communications should be heard by the negotiating committee.
Yeah.
If they have a lot of negative feelings out there, they should wake up to them and read them, not wipe them off.
Yeah.
And the other membership who may have doubts about how good the deal is have to read these things.
Yeah.
I don't know why the negotiating committee is afraid of the comments that they have on the deal.
Well, I would say
there is a meeting today. I think it's
Yeah.
today, and there's going to be a lot of people speaking against ratification of this deal.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that the Niagara Parks has over them is the fear factor. If they go on strike, everybody's strapped in debt. Everybody, this is North America. People are up to their eyeballs in debt. I don't think the actual Canadian consumer has been more in debt for a generation by now. They now we can't pay our bills. Our credit cards are going up. Bills are stacking up, and there was an article. We didn't talk about it, but I think I put it in there, or wanted to put it in there, about how bad the average Canadian is slowly going into debt.
We didn't manage to discuss it at the time. Yeah, that was a couple of weeks back. Yeah, one of the things is, I also get the other thing about this. OPESU Local 217 President Mike Gorforth says it is what it is, right? Well, it is what it is in this situation with what you're talking about, with the members being unhappy. No, that's insufficient. He should be dealing with that situation about his members' dissatisfaction a lot differently than that.
I hate that expression. It is what it is. Yeah. I hate it. It's a catch-all phrase that means nothing. It can mean something in specific points of view, but it is what it is not a good explanation for your membership.
No, it means I'm ignoring you.
Yeah.
That's what it basically means. And you watch it. Mike Goforth is going to lose his job next time around, next election, right?
Yeah, unless he improves his ability to listen to the membership.
Yeah. And okay, so we knew about the Treasury Board issue, but even so, with that should have been resolved by now.
I don't think it has been. I think their Treasury Board still got their nose in it, but at least they've have a deal coming up. It's typical government type of thing where the contract comes to an end, and then they lag out negotiations, and then and then what they do is everybody gets really tired, and late at night when they start pounding out deals late at night, and everybody's tired, and someone thinks, okay, I finally got a good deal. Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
Where you are right, Betty, the oil thing is BS. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Yeah, so
I'm just going through the set of comments that are there.
Well, there was Karen and Mike. Dragging negotiations over 2 years. I would have a new negotiating crew.
Yeah.
Long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. On both sides, they need to be kicking ass about this deal, because it's embarrassing for the employer as well as for the union to be in this situation.
Yeah.
Right. Because to me, it says the employer hasn't provided enough. If the union guy's shrugging his shoulders and says it is what it is, right? No, it isn't what it is.
No, never say that. I mean,
never.
Geez, I've been in a union, like I was executive of my union.
Yeah.
I was a president for 6 years.
Well, it's the worst possible thing you could say in any political situation, isn't it? The councillor, the city makes a decision and everybody's up in arms about it, and the councillor turns around and says, it is what it is, right? Yeah.
Not good phraseology.
Not good phraseology in any situation, right? It is what it is not acceptable.
Well, now,
The workers will be have been without a contract for 2 years. And it's a reflection on poor management and both. Yes, agreed. Poor management and poor management within the union as well, I believe, Mike.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out what happens today. Now, what I hear is there's a lot of resistance to this, but like I said before, there's the fear factor. And the fear factor is if I go on strike, I won't be paid and I'm already in debt.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I can't go, I can't sign. I'll have to sign on or vote for it because I can't see myself on the picket line for 2 weeks with no check coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but they don't see but on the other hand, they have incredible leverage. All they have to do is start picketing, Table Rock and the other places in and around, shutting down Table Rock, shutting down all the other rides and get the cashiers out of there and all that. And they can make a pretty big dent right away in the business of Niagara Falls. The hoteliers and everybody else will probably be on the side of the workers, get them paid and get them back on the job. And particularly now when we need our tourist industry more than ever because we don't really have that much diversity in this Niagara region. So if you're threatening the number one source of money for this area, you'd better come to a deal. So I don't think the union understands the kind of leverage it has.
Yeah.
And when the people, when people have been looking at it and commenting badly about it on their Facebook page, comment after comment, and the union gets frightened and turns off the Facebook page, and the president himself says, well, I've been instructed to turn it off. Well, I know what that means. I mean, the executive has told them to turn it off, and you have to oblige by what the executive is. Usually the president is part of the executive. So once the executive, whether you like it or not, if the majority of the executive vote a certain way, you have to support that. That's the way it works.
Yeah, of course. And he's only the spokesperson for it. But again, it's just not the right it's just not the right response.
We'll see. We'll see what ratification is today. And I said, I don't think anybody really likes it from what I heard. I don't think it's sufficient to the needs of the workers. But like I said before, it's the fear factor that people are. And when you are already in debt and you're losing ground, you can see yourself losing a little less ground if you get paid every week a little bit more, not as much as you need, but a little bit more. Yeah. So the fear factor of debt, the average person is, too many of us are in debt. And that's what's making our mind up for us, where it's fear of more debt. So we'll see. I don't think if they go on strike, if they do go walk out with signs and stuff like that, if they do go out, then it will be resolved really quick. If you can imagine the picket line, the signs around Table Rock, how bad that looks for the city, they'll settle it.
Table Rock, Butterfly Observatory, and other key locations. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But the ones right downtown are the big ones because there's where the most people go, and that looks the worst for the worst for the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think enough said on that. Let's move on. So Carney, ahead of the CUSMA negotiations, Carney calls for a new US-Canada partnership. He made a speech yesterday in New York. Basically, he was saying a true partnership that recognizes the cooperation in specific sectors and challenge global competition. That is what is needed from the CUSMA agreement.
Yes, I think we'll see how effective his negotiation style is. He is reaching out to people that he knows that in the back room of the White House, a lot of people from the United States, not only senators and congressmen who both voted for the continuation of CUSMA, or USMCA in their area, they had those votes that recommended that those both continue on. They had no weight, but it was a statement. But among the captains of industry, so to speak, in the back rooms of the White House, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of complaints about the tariffs.
Yeah.
And how it's affecting the bottom line. So Carney's gone right to those people. He's gone right to Wall Street and started talking to them.
Yeah.
And so the White House is hearing it in the back room, and Carney's bringing that out in the open and telling everybody, look, we need each other. Let's fix this up. We are diversifying, et cetera, et cetera. He's probably trying to attract investment by selling the fact that we're more diversified. Oddly enough, you can go to the United States and say, look, we're going to be less dependent on the United States. That's why you want to invest in Canada, because we have more diversified markets. Look at where aluminum's going now. Look at where gas and oil is going. So, and of course that frosts, that gets Howard Lutnick really mad, which makes me very pleased because he's a creepy, greasy guy. Did you know that he's the Secretary of Commerce, and we got to deal with him. And he's before he went into to that where he testified behind closed doors, no video. Meanwhile, remember they did that the Clintons, they put him on film. But Howard Lutnick, before this happened, he hands over $5 million to the Republican Party so that he could kind of buy them into not putting him on film. Jeez, I tell you, the corruption's unbelievable down there.
Yeah,
seriously unbelievable. Anyway, so he's kind of a greasy little worm, and turns out he's had more dealings with Epstein than even thought prior to this. But in any case, the Epstein class still runs a lot of what happens in the Trump administration, and this particular foray by Carney kind of does not involve Trump at all, and it doesn't involve Lutnick and all that. He is speaking to sectors of the U.S. economy and world economy and otherwise, but in this particular case, sectors of the American economy that are not directly connected with the White House and that kind of thing. So he's making his appeals to the, like I said, the captains of industry. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And they're the most powerful people realistically in the US. Yeah, it'd be hard for them to sign on to something. Rick says, Dave, what was Rick on? Dave, do like anybody. Do like anybody?
No.
And pedos running a country, how horrible. Yes. Yeah. Well, and they're weird too. You look at all those guys, how weird they are. Hegseth is a complete and total weirdo. Lutnick is a weirdo and a creep. Miller is right off his lid. These guys are like weird, totally weird. Vance is kind of only semi-weird. He's prostituted his ethics. He will parrot anything that Trump says, and he gets it wrong sometimes. When Trump put up the Jesus picture, Trump says, well, I was supposed to be a doctor in that picture, but before Vance got the signal on that, he says, oh, nobody understands his sense of humor. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, oh, well, he dressed himself like Jesus, but that's part of his sense of humor. Ha, ha. And then Trump comes on a couple of days later and says, oh, no, I'm supposed to be a doctor. So Vance doesn't know what to do, right? He's kind of handed over half of his soul. And Rubio is probably the only one with any real abilities right now, and he doesn't seem to be quite as insane as everyone else. But the whole pack of them are weird. Look at that Paxton guy that they just endorsed. Weird, weird, weird. And I think that's going to backfire on them. You can't go weird all the time.
Trump has basically, Mike is saying that Trump has said yesterday that Canada and Mexico are paying tariffs come what may. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but look at here, like we are the only country that are resisting aside from China with our own counter tariffs.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that are standing up to the United States. We have to be proud of that. And guess what? It's shown the Europeans, and what has shown the rest of the world. We haven't got the muscle that China does to fight tariff with tariff, but we're fighting back with tariffs and restrictions on booze and everything else. And the people of Canada are not going into the States for holidays and things like that. So we're fighting the best we can against the huge bully. But look what Europeans have found out, right? When they make a deal with them, they get slapped around and the deal keeps changing. Look at the Japanese sealed a deal for $3 billion in investments or 3% investments, and before the deal was signed, we're going to change it. We're going to change it. So they keep changing. Every time you give them something or give them something, they say they want more. We want 25% tariff on your aluminum. No, we want 50%.
Let's move on, Dave. Let's move on. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let's come back to local. Okay, Niagara Falls just really is an announcement piece, really. Niagara Falls Art Gallery is basically celebrating 50 years. It was created in the 70s. Couldn't believe it, 50 years ago. 1976. Wow. There you go, 50 years old.
Yeah, I can't. I think I was in there once. That's all, and it's right there. It's kind of like at a remote location there, and I think that's why I see it as I drive down the highway. I see it, and I think, oh, I got to go there, and then by the time I get home, I forget about it.
Yeah. No, exactly the same as you, Dave. I've passed it so many times, and whether I passed it on being on Oakwood Drive or passed it because I was going down the highway, I've each time said, yes, I've got to go there. And, and the only time I've actually went there is when I actually had to go to the location. I had to drop something off to somebody at that location.
Yeah.
Many years
I meant
ago.
to go there because actually right now, I think Deb Jackson's stuff is still in there until somewhere in June. So it might be just for that reason, a local artist, Deb Jackson has her stuff there, and other local artists that keep popping up. I don't know who they are, but I think it's Deb who puts them up on her webpage, and I get them once in a while. Not webpage, Facebook. So when I go on Facebook, I don't go on Facebook nearly as much as I used to, but I see it once in a while. So that's a good reminder. We have a local artist that got her work in the gallery right now, so that might be a good reason to go there. But the gallery is celebrating its 50th birthday. It'd be nice if there was more patronage on this. The fact of where it is, that's the hard part. They picked that remote location, but it cost them, I think, $500,000 back then to make this, and it was an act of philanthropy, it seems to me.
Yeah,
that created it.
Yeah, and realistically, it should have been further downtown, down the tourist core. That would have attracted a lot more people. Anyway.
Yeah, but you don't know how much money you got and when. Yeah. And it was by Olha and Mikola Kolan Kowiski purchased William Kurlek's Passion of Christ series. Now, William Kurlek, at that particular time, he was not nearly as well known as he is now. William Kurlek is a very, very famous artist now, but at the time they had the wisdom to buy these art pieces.
He did something called the Passion of Christ, didn't he?
Yeah, it's the Passion of Christ. It's a whole series of paintings.
Yeah.
160 paintings that depict the St. Matthew passage line by line.
Oh, okay.
you know.
I didn't know that about it, but I did know that yes, that as soon as you said his name, Passion of Christ triggered. It's from the 60s sometime is what I remember.
I think around the 70s, to me, I kind of remember him becoming
Oh,
the guy. I think I'm trying to find some of his art here. I see it now. Yeah, I've got it up here. He's yeah. So I remember the name. There's a particular piece of work, I think I'm trying to find it, that is the most famous for me, if I can find it.
I don't remember too much about it, but I do, I seem to remember that it was the whole series took place either in the, from the 60s to the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of peasant-like, ordinary stuff here. He's got an Inuit guy standing by a ice hole waiting for a seal, probably, and he's got all kinds of interesting paintings. But I've actually haven't seen many of these at all.
Which one do they have in the Niagara Falls Gallery?
They have the one about the St. Matthew line by line 160 Passion of Christ painting series.
Yeah. Okay.
So the patrons bought them, and before he was as famous as he's now, so that was a good deal for them at that time.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So remember them. Head there.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's that's in June, though, isn't it? I have to get my
50th anniversary is in June. Yes.
Yeah, June.
Well, we're just around the corner from June, Dave.
Yes, but I want to know the day in June so we can tell our viewers or listeners.
Yeah. No, I don't have the day up on my screen, unfortunately.
It's in the article. Let me see.
Oh, actually, celebrating 50 years this Saturday.
This Saturday, okay.
Which would not be in June. It is therefore May 30th.
May 30th. Okay, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah,
there we go.
It was in the headline, and we didn't even spot it from that. Right. It's okay. It's okay.
I got it mixed up with that. There's somebody's having a celebration in June soon.
Yeah, there is another celebration in June, that's for sure. We talked about that. All right. You put up an interesting article up there, and I have to say this is partially true. Why are women's voices getting deeper today? Because they are. I've just noticed it is that it used to be, when I was a kid, I remember women's voices were much higher pitched than they are today.
Yeah, well, you know what made me look at this is the phenomenon of croaking voices. If you notice, there's a lot of women in the media or on the radio who talk like a little bit of croaking going on in their voice. Even though they have a very high voice, they go down to that croaking level. There's the one on the one Democrat on the Fox panel there's a Fox political panel, and one of the women is the Democrat, and she talks in that croaking voice. And I'm wondering, what is that with so many women using that croaking voice? Well, apparently, like a lot of, of course, I haven't got a high woman's voice, so so they go down where it crackles, and that's an attempt, because it's like those damn pantsuits that women wear. There's been research, and I don't really believe the research. The research it has been that women in dresses do not portray the power that men in a suit does. So what you want to do as a woman is get closer to a suit, so be a pantsuit. So there you got the frumpy pantsuits that Hillary Clinton wears, and the frumpy pantsuits that Kamala Harris wears, and that's supposed to exude more power. A dress would less, so you have to wear a pantsuit as similar as you can get to a man's suit. Well, the some of the same research is telling you that a lower voice is regarded as a more powerful voice, one with more power and authority. So women are trying to lower their voices as well as they can.
Okay, so and it's true what they're saying in this article is if you listen to audio programs from the 1940s and 50s, you'll hear striking differences to the way that people often spoke then and how will they express themselves today, and particularly women, because I suppose in a way as soon as I was reading that, the one character who popped out in my mind was Lucille Ball, and she was always quite high pitched in her voice.
She was high pitched in her voice. No, I don't think she had smoker's voice. It was lower than normal.
Later on,
in her early years, yeah. Well, because that was part of her character to be flighty.
Yeah,
right.
I'm talking about her early years. I was talking about her early years, right?
Yeah, early years, of course. Yeah, she was high.
Again, if you were to look at TV and radio programs from the 40s and 50s, it's true. And I know that here, this is a BBC article, so it's talking about British women, not so much Americans.
Yeah. And like I said before, it was that curiosity of so many women having the croaky voice, as Tarlev, I think her name is, on the Fox thing. She's got that croaky voice. I've been listening to the radio. There's a program on NPR. It has to do with economics that I get once in a while, and one of the hosts is a woman with a croaky voice. So you have these people women trying to croak their voice, lizard people so they're trying to croak their voice or get it lower, and that's been a trend among women a lot. It seems to me that women change their voice and means of expression a lot more than men do. Like I think like some of the young women I saw about 10 years ago. Traveling women young women in Thailand, they all sound like Valley Girls, kind of, and they all have, and some of them would affect a certain kind of a lisp kind of a thing going on, and there's styles of talking or speaking that women do much more than men, and one of those things is the croaky voice. You don't find too many men doing the croaky voice.
No, you don't. Okay, so what will be be abused and get rid of good counsellor like Laurie Lococo?
Will that be abused to get rid of a? Well, Laurie Lococo's going nowhere. She's ultra popular for good reason. She does her job.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. She investigates the stuff. She does
her job. I'm really glad we got somebody like Laurie Lococo on there.
Yeah.
She wanted to do it, and once she got in that seat, she did what she said she was going to do.
Yeah.
She's not always going to have successes, but look, she's the only one that voted against the $15,000 that Ribfest got, because she said it has to follow a process. Everyone else wanted to look good, look like they were the generous counselors. Laurie said, "Oh, wait a minute, we can be generous if we want, but there's a process that has to happen."
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Okay. So the point being, so what they're basically saying is, if you receive in UK, for example, fewer people talk with received pronunciation, and they said that even Queen Elizabeth has lost some of the cut glass vowels of her youth. So she was different in her youth than she was as she got older.
Maggie Thatcher had to have extensive voice and speech lessons. She had a high voice with with an accent, a strong accent. I think she came from Northern. I forget where she come from, but
she's a Southern lady. She comes from London.
London. but she had quite an accent, and she had to take extensive speech to not only lower her voice, but to lower her voice and remove her accent.
Yeah, she did. Where she comes from is she comes from about 100 miles north of London, in a little town called Grantham. So it's along the A1, right? That's where she comes from.
Well, it doesn't matter. What matters what kind of accent she had there. She was her dad was a butcher, was he, or something?
He was a shopkeeper, yes.
Shopkeeper?
Yeah. So
she had of course, I've never heard her speak before she changed her way of speaking. She was described as shrill, high voiced, and heavily accented. So she had to learn to speak slower in as low a tone as she could. Meanwhile, she didn't change her dress, though. She always dressed like a woman, and she didn't try to affect a man's posture that way.
Actually, the one thing I would say is, you know how the Queen would dress? She would always dress as, she'd always dress in a particular style that was the Queen of England. Every time she'd step out onto an occasion, she would wear something that was quintessentially the Queen, right?
Yeah, usually with a big fascinator on.
Well, and the same with Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher had an appearance that was distinctly Margaret Thatcher. She didn't change it for anybody, right? It was the way Margaret Thatcher was. And
but it was very, very feminine. It was very feminine.
Yes. But it was a feminine power thing.
It may have been, but what local or politicians now, female politicians now, are falling into that. I know I read this stuff when Kamala Harris was coming on, and I noticed she had the same frumpy pantsuits. In fact, I think I even brought it up on this show. So I read about the frumpy pantsuits that Kamala Harris was wearing and the frumpy pantsuits that Hillary Clinton wanted to wear. And I'm thinking, my God, those are terrible looking things. They're so dull and they're so unfeminine. And yet, and yet they're being persuaded by sort of studies that say that women have to look more like men in clothes. They can't wear dresses. That means we. Meanwhile, look, whatever you think of Danielle Smith, she wears dresses all the time, and nobody's bugging her. I mean, you know what I mean? No one's telling anyone that she's not a powerful woman.
But again, if you look and compare Danielle Smith to Margaret Thatcher, and I don't have enough information and background knowledge about Danielle Smith, but I would say that she takes after, in some respects, Margaret Thatcher, because she's wearing what is quintessentially Danielle Smith. There is nothing, what she wears, they're not commenting upon her for her fashion, they're commenting upon her for her politics, right?
Well, look, it's the whole image thing, right? Now, she does speak a little bit lower, but she does have a definitely feminine voice. But she wears dresses. You're not supposed to wear a dress, right? She don't care. I'm going to dress the way I want to dress.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't make any difference for her, does it? I think the studies that they've come up with are just wrong. I think they're just wrong altogether. I don't think a woman has to have a voice.
Yeah.
I don't think they have to lower their voice. I think they can use their ordinary voices. I mean, we're not stupid. We were going to listen to the words they use and the ideas they have, in my effect. But Margaret Thatcher, somebody like Margaret Thatcher with a strong accent and a very high voice, had to do that because she felt that she would not have been accepted otherwise. But she had a very different attitudes. Like, I saw an interview with her long ago when she was talking to school kids, well before she was the prime minister, and they asked her, will there ever be a woman prime minister? And she said, not for a very long time. it will be a very long time before we have a woman prime minister. Ironically, she became one not long after.
Yeah, I believe that was actually when she was Minister of Education in the Heath government. She went on a school trip, and that's when that happened. And the irony, of course, is that she became leader of the Conservative Party within, because when Heath lost the general election, the following general election, she then became leader of the Conservative Party and subsequently the next prime minister.
Yeah.
So within 5 years she was prime minister. Yeah,
she predicted she wouldn't be the prime minister, basically.
Well, she didn't know that she was going to be elevated to that top position, did she? First, and of course, in politics, the first thing you've got to, irrespective of who you are, in order to be in that leadership role, the first thing you have to do is become leader of your party.
Yes, you do. Of course, if you're going to be prime minister, you have to, whoever the leader of the party is going to be the prime minister. And it has a picture of her. As a matter of fact, it has a picture of her in this article, and she's a very feminine look to her. She's got a hat. She's got, it's just very feminine looking woman. But her voice but she had to have a voice coach to help lower her voice in an attempt to, of course, she had to receive pronunciation too, right?
You're talking about,
you had to learn to speak like the queen, but like some accountant. Anyway, and of course, the University of South Australia studied the voices of two groups of Australian women, 18 to 25, and compared them with archival recordings of women talking in 1945 with the recent recordings taken in the early 1990s. The team found the fundamental frequency had dropped by 23 hertz over 5 decades. So women are consciously trying to lower their voice. I think men try to get their voice higher at times because, especially if you're around kids, if you have a low voice, kids don't like it. The kids like high voice. You notice children like the high voice of women, so they'll go to women because of the higher voice. But if a man comes in with a low voice, it kind of frightens them.
I have to say that I've never had a low voice. My voice is much higher pitched than the average man is, I think.
Mine is what it is normally, I think.
I think yours is
pretty ordinary. I got a pretty ordinary man voice.
Yeah, you got
an ordinary man voice.
Mine is
man voice.
But mine is higher pitched than yours. I know that.
Now, if I put some croaking in, then I could really look like a real bad dude. Man, I'm gonna kick your ass. Hey, you turn this. You're late today.
All right.
I got to work on my croak.
Let's move on, right? Because I think we can kind of end out the show with the next piece. All right. Israel has emptied out southern Lebanon, way beyond the front lines, basically just bombing and bulldozing the lot. And this came from Reuters yesterday, updated less than 20 hours ago.
So what they're doing is they told people in southern Lebanon that live there for generations, get out of there. And then they bomb the crap out of it, and they're fighting Hezbollah. Hezbollah, of course, will move into the area. That's the southern. Rick says I got a great croaky woman's voice. Anyway, back to our article. So this is what I mean. Like Donald Trump's got no control over Netanyahu. He's got no control over Israel. As a matter of fact, he relies on them, as we could see in his machinations against Thomas Massie. He used a lot of Israeli-backed money for that to get rid of Massie. Cost him millions and millions of dollars, but it was worth it for them. So he's not going to bug Netanyahu at all. And he said, "Oh, the Israelis don't treat him well enough and all that," because they need each other. So he hasn't got the ability to tell Netanyahu to stop bombing the crap out of Lebanon. And they take the bulldozers after that. They go in there and then they start bulldozing homes that were there for like generations, and some new, some old, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. They go in and they tell people of a little town, get out of here, get out. Yeah. And then they come in with their bulldozers and knock everything down. So there's no incentive for you to come back and live there. What they're looking for is another buffer zone. Actually, they're trying to settle it like they did the Golan Heights. They never gave it back. They never intend to. There's a big area in Syria they call it buffer zone, but they tend to settle that area. They've taken 60% of Gaza, which was too small anyway, and they intend to settle that and take on Gaza City. Finally, the Germans have finally turned on them, and everybody's issue. They're going very, very slow against Israel, though. They're super slow, and Israel sees that they have a window of opportunity here. They can take a piece of Syria. They can take a piece of Lebanon. They can take a piece of Gaza, and they can ruin the lives of the people that live in west on the West Bank and crush them. They try to change the name of the West Bank to the Judea and Samaria, things of that kind. So that's one of their things. They don't only bulldoze a town down; they change the name of it when they put their own settlers in.
Okay, so one of the things that's been said is U.S. brokered truce that was announced 40 days ago today. Has failed to actually halt the violence between Israel and Hezbollah, and in fact, they're just walking in there right now.
Yeah, they're doing whatever they want. They don't listen to Trump. Trump says, okay, he wanted to get this peace deal, and part of the peace deal was that Israel stopped their hostilities in southern Lebanon. Well, Israel never did. As a matter of fact, the day they started, they killed 200 people in the cities, a lot of children and everything. Never, and the U.S. Doesn't matter what the media outlet is. They always it's like verboten. You can't say much bad about what Israel's doing. It's because of the powerful Israeli lobby will lobby against you, will make your life miserable. And anyway, so you can't get real. You can only get partial bits of truth out of the U.S. Media, even worldwide media. You got to be very careful. You got to go to places like Al Jazeera and other outlets like that to get a more up-to-date, realistic view of what's going on.
This is Reuters, who of course are a news distribution network.
I think Reuters was originally Canadian. I think
Reuters used
Canadian
to be
family that I think that owned it.
Thomson Reuters that's true. Thomson and Reuters it's a Canadian network, but it basically what Reuters used to do was they'd have an underground channel that only news sources could tap into, and they would report stories across the world that the BBC would pick up, the San Francisco Herald would pick up, etc., and they would report it on their in their own way.
Yeah, what they report and how they report is a big thing here. You can have a lot of accurate reporting out there by courageous journalists, but you're not going to be able to say anything bad about Israel and U.S. TV.
Yeah,
you're not, because of the U.S. Israeli lobby is powerful, and they own a lot of the politicians, of course.
What I like about Reuters is an underground kind of news source type. It's not really an doesn't really carry much in the way of advertising, although it does. It's not portraying itself as a competitor to the main news agencies of the world. It's just a support network.
It contributes to them, yeah. So that's a source for them to use. Well,
it does is it prints stories. It prints stories that you don't see elsewhere because they're not necessarily picked up by anybody.
Okay, so basically, what's happening is the U.S. has no control over
of course,
over Netanyahu and his goons, and that's going to be part of this memorandum of understanding we talked about in the Iran war. The U.S. is really, really trying to find a way out of this, and the memorandum of understanding may be that thing that makes them be able to walk away from it and gradually get everybody's mind off it. If they can come up with some sort of intermediate deal where the Straits of Hormuz are opened and oil prices and gas prices start coming down, and then they can play at being negotiating, and it'll go out of the public mind, they hope. However, I don't think Netanyahu or Lindsey Graham or any of the war hawks, the neocons, are going to let Trump off the hook that easy. But they also have to worry about their own future, because he could turn it on them too. He's got to remember that if Lindsey Graham keeps bugging him about a war that he doesn't want to have anymore, he'll just tell Lindsey, look, I'll primary you.
Yeah. One of the other questions about this one, of course, is that Trump wants to keep in it to some extent, because as soon as there's a lull, we know what's going to happen. Epstein's going to come to the fore again.
Well, that's it. It is already being pushed. They won't let it go away.
I know.
As I talked about Howard Lutnick's newest revelations about handing money off to those people who were investigating him in the behind with no film or no public. He gave money, $5 million, to keep everybody quiet, or at least not insist upon having an open videotaped interview. The transcripts are out, but he knows he's pretty safe with that. So and we got Betty. Yes, all these comments, I don't know exactly what they refer to, though.
I'm just picking back up. Yeah. After all, how can anything be left really common? Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched the nomads in their country, no thing going on.
Yeah. Nomads. Yeah. Problematic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the whole thing. Yeah. So basically, if you really want to find out something, you have to do you have to look at Al Jazeera, you got to look at German news, French news, Israeli news, everything before you find out something, because a lot of Haaretz, for instance, does a lot of resists quite often the government. It sometimes could be a truth teller, so you can find things out of Haaretz. You can find, so if you want to go searching, you can look at Haaretz, look at Al Jazeera is a very good one for what's really going on in the Middle East. If Al Jazeera, there's a show called The Listening Post. The host is a Canadian guy, and that's been on for years. It's a very good feature. You can dig into a lot of the news and how it's spun in that particular show. It will tell you how news is spun and twisted.
All right.
I think we're going to have an education in our schools on how to watch the news. And anyway, all right. Like we pointed out already, I'm going to talk about Gaza, as I always do, and that's getting to be a nightmare, wasting children. Israel occupies 60% of the land and squeezing the rest of the people on 40% of the land that wasn't big enough when it was 100%. And they're doing their same old nastiness in the West Bank, and now they're knocking down people's homes, everyday people's homes in southern Lebanon, hoping they'll never come back.
Yeah. All right. And everybody, and Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace.